Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda, and welcome everyone who is in the Zoom room with me right now, and those of you watching on YouTube or the recording that eventually comes up on Facebook. However it is that you are connecting with us at Unity of Fredericksburg, we appreciate you and are glad that you are making the effort to be with us. Our broadcast date today is Sunday, July 20th. 2025, and we are in the midst of the third quarter here at Unity of Fredericksburg. And in the third quarter, every Sunday, we are exploring one of Unity's 12 powers. The 12 powers being a study set developed by Unity founder Charles Fillmore and his colleagues that teach us about divine qualities that are inherent in each one of us. And today, we are exploring the power of judgment. And my title is Here Comes the Judge. And what that comes from, for those who might not be old enough to remember, is from a TV show called Laugh-In. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. It was a variety show that ran on TV for 6 seasons in the late 60s and early 70s. To be honest, I don't know why I know about this because I was a little child then. Maybe the TV was just going all the time when I was a kid. I don't know. But Laugh-In featured kind of lightning fast one-liners and absurd situation comedy. There were characters that would show up repeatedly, like one of them, Lily Tomlin's character, Ernestine, who was a telephone operator with her little headset on, and she would make snarky comments to the people on the calls. And she had this line that she would always say, a one ringy dingy, two ringy dingy. So for those of you who remember, and another regular scene was Here Comes the Judge. And this featured Sammy Davis Jr. wearing a long, curly, white jurist wig and dancing across the stage. And then they would have these scenes where he would give sentences in the form of jokes and whack people with a big inflatable gavel. So an example of that kind of scene, the judge asked the accused, "Why did you stick your knife into the plaintiff?" And the accused answered, "Well, I heard the police coming and I had to hide it somewhere." So just so you know, Here Comes the Judge was based on a novelty song of the same name that was performed by a comedian named Pigmeat Markham. So it was a song, it was a thing on TV. So when I thought of the power of judgment, my brain went to Here Comes the Judge. So this is all a playful way to move us into our discussion of the power of judgment. Now, these days, we more often hear it referred to as the power of wisdom or discernment. Sometimes we might hear the word intuition. But in the beginning, I'm starting with judgment so that we can kind of shine a light on some of our current attitudes about that word and old beliefs that are attached to the word judgment. So we don't use the word judgment so much anymore because it's become very tied to the trait of being judgmental, right? So judging other people or judging ourselves. Judgment also, we don't use it quite so much in Unity because it, of course, brings to mind a person in a courtroom whose role it is to pass judgment and to, deem people guilty or innocent. And of course, the word judgment brings to mind religious teachings based on literal interpretations of scripture about Judgment Day, when every person would supposedly be subjected to the judgment of some outer deity. Now, in Unity, we do not interpret the Bible in literal terms because we know that the ancient Hebrews wrote and taught in metaphorical, allegorical terms. So rather than imagining like the judgment day, we see judgment as a faculty we use each and every day to navigate the quality and experience of our lives. So, who is the judge? You are, my friend. So, in order to give us a little insight into this, we have today a special Reader's Theater presentation in the form of a video. So, our wonderful Zoom host, Jason, is going to show us that video now, and it's called The Unity Twilight Zone.
I wonder if I should wear the red or the blue.
Yellow.
The red makes me look peaked, but I think the blue needs to be washed.
Wear the yellow.
If I put a sweater over the stain, I bet the blue would be fine.
How about the yellow?
Huh. Maybe I'll wear the yellow.
What we are witnessing is a glimpse into an average mind in the relative realm of consciousness. A normal and ordinary woman making plans for a typical run-of-the-mill day. However, today we are able to see more. Today we take an observer's view, and from the depths of the absolute realm, we are able to detect the activity of divine ideas in action. Beyond the ever-changing outer appearances, we are able to glimpse wisdom in action. We are able to hear the voice of discernment, and yes, we are able to feel the power of judgment in this woman's life. For after all, the average man or woman on a typical day doesn't make it out the door without the ability to evaluate and make choices. But how aware is this quotidian woman? What choices will she make? And what outcomes will she create? Let us observe and find out here in the Unity Twilight Zone.
Oh, I don't know. The yellow is too bold, isn't it?
The yellow is great, really.
But the red doesn't work and the blue has a stain. Oh, what shall I do? I just can't make up my mind.
Just listen. You've got this.
Huh?
The yellow brings confidence.
Yellow does help me feel confident.
And it's fresh and from the cleaners.
Yes. Yes, that looks good. The yellow it will be. And the boss likes yellow, and I love the boss, and I want the boss to like me, so I'll go out and get the yellow Post-it notes and the yellow pens and yellow highlighters. Oh, I wonder if I could find a yellow stapler. Maybe even a yellow car.
Oh, whoa, Nellie. Attraction is good, but there can be too much of a good thing.
That is a bit much, isn't it? But I really do like the boss, and the boss really does like yellow. The boss likes pretzels, too.
Pretzels are fine, just not too many.
A simple demonstration of divine ideas at work in the life of a normal everyday woman. And yet, there is so much more at play here. The power of wisdom, partnering gracefully with the powers of love and understanding. The perceptive, evaluative quality of judgment combined with the executive, deciding faculty of the will. And all this, a depth of wisdom, is ever to be tapped, available to even the most average of us all. In fact, not only available, these divine ideas are in action at all times, whether we pay attention or not. And all for us to see here in the Unity Twilight Zone.
All right, I'm giggling at the little bit the So I hope you enjoyed that. A little playful approach to the power of judgment, and there are so many angles for us to approach the 12 powers. And when it comes to judgment, we use the power of judgment for all kinds of small decisions, right? So, what color to wear, and the big decisions like what is my purpose? And as they mentioned in the skit, we're using it all the time. We are judging machines, my friends. And in fact, we're using all the 12 powers all the time. In fact, we can't not be using them. They are inherent. They're kind of like, a part of your body. The underside of your big toe is participating all the time, whether our foot is at rest or walking, right? So the question is, how are we using it? Now, one of the things we talk about regularly is that here in this human life, we are indeed human 100% of the time in these bodies. And at the same time, we are 100% divine. So, what's important is that we use our 12 powers on both of those levels, at the level of our human nature and at the level of our divine nature. Now, we get some wonderful guidance and insight into the 12 powers from this lovely book called Power Up by the Reverend Doctors Paul Hasselbeck and Cher Holton. And they tell us that this power of judgment or wisdom is the ability to judge, to evaluate, like, what is the best choice for me right now? To discern, to be wise, to appraise, and to apply the knowledge that we have. So when we use the power of judgment from our human nature, we're using our body and our brain to evaluate scenarios based on our human senses, based on the experience we have had. So indeed, we use it to discern what to wear, right? So we're looking at the temperature, we're looking at the weather, we're thinking about, am I going to a wedding or a baseball game? These are all things that we use to evaluate, to judge whether to wear the red or the yellow, right? We use it to determine what to eat, right? What our body likes, what it doesn't like, which direction to go to get somewhere. We use it all the time. And naturally, we use our capacity for wisdom and all the things we've learned in our lives. We use that intellectual understanding to navigate all of our life experiences at the human level. And these are all very important things that we do all the time. But it's, of course, very important for us to use the opportunity of using this power of judgment from the spiritual level, from our divine nature. When we do, we apply what we know to be true on a spiritual level, and we can take a spiritual view of all of our circumstances, not based on human knowledge and intellectual understanding, but based on an intuitive feeling, a soul-based understanding of what is right for us in one circumstance and the next. So we use this power of judgment to essentially kind of connect the dots of our human experience with our spiritual understanding so that we can see beyond the appearances that our human brain and body takes in. We can sense connection rather than separation. When our eyes might see separation from a spiritual level, we can connect the dots and see connection, reveal oneness rather than opposition. So we choose the context of how we're going to apply the power of judgment. So here's a quote from Linda Martella Whitsett, and she's the author of this wonderful book on the 12 powers called Divine Audacity. So here's what Linda has to say about this. Our awareness or consciousness is pivotal. We can turn to the world around us or to the world within, where we can access boundless power beyond the only human capacity. We can be fed by our outer circumstances or by the infinite self. We have a choice. So that level of choice comes up all the time. Am I going to use my power of judgment based on my human senses or based on what I know to be true in the heart of my being? Now, when Unity founder Charles Fillmore teaches about this power of judgment, he uses a Bible story that I'm sure all of us have heard of, the story of Adam and Eve. Now, literally interpreted, this is a powerful story of the first humans, Adam and Eve, who lived in a peaceful garden where there was only good. But they failed to follow God's rules. They ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then God cast them out of the garden into the hardship of the material world. So, on its surface, this is a story about God's judgment, right? But as mentioned before, in Unity, we do not interpret the Bible in literal terms as if those were actual events involving actual people. Through the metaphysical lens, beyond the physical, we see this story differently. We see ourselves in this pivotal story. We see our divine nature as the Garden of Eden. All of the good of the universe available to us in totality all the time. And we have the choice to keep our awareness rooted in this Garden of Eden, using the lens of our divinity to evaluate all of the circumstances we encounter, or we can give in to the temptation of worldly knowledge and look to the outer world for what Fillmore would call the lessons of hard knocks. So it's our choice. Here's a quote that he has about this. Let me get my reading glasses because the print is very small. When the desire for the pleasures of sensation is indulged and the guiding wisdom ignored, a realm of consciousness is established that regards the material universe as the only reality. And haven't we all either heard that kind of comment or been to that moment where we're looking at the outside world and saying we need to deal with reality, the reality of what's going on in the outer world? We know that there is genuine truth that is not reflected by the appearances. And we've heard from so many spiritual teachers to not judge by appearances. So, as Fillmore notes, when we anchor our sense of judgment on those physical experience, those physical sensations, which appear to be separation and lack and all of those things, we forget that we are surrounded by, clothed in the goodness of all that is. And instead, we're out there feeling naked and unsupported and anxious and worrying because we're judging things based on things in the outer world. So Adam and Eve remind us to use our power of judgment from both our human and our divine natures. This is not an all or nothing scenario, right? Because we acknowledge that we are 100% human and we are 100% divine. So you can have your apple and eat it too, my friends. It is natural and necessary for us to use judgment on a human and a divine level. We kind of toggle back and forth between the two. The trouble we run into is when we get all into the outer world and forget to reference that energy of the universe that is supporting us all the time. So we can, when contemplating an important decision, On the one hand, in a wise human approach, we can list out pros and cons, right? We can do some research. We can check some references and reviews. These are all good things. These are all good things to do. And we need to remember to lean into our power of judgment from a spiritual mindset. The number one way in which we do that, my friends, is spending time in the silence, in the stillness, having a spiritual practice that allows us quiet time, regular quiet time in our day, quieting the mind and opening the heart. Here's an affirmation from Cora Fillmore. I think I haven't shown this, but I read from it, but I haven't shown this book. So this is my copy of The 12 Powers. And it lists authors Charles Fillmore and Cora Fillmore. Well, actually, what it is 2 entire books in this little volume. And they don't actually mention Cora's book. So the first book in here is The 12 Powers. It was originally called The 12 Powers of Man by Charles Fillmore. And then the second book is called Christ Enthroned in Man, kind of a lofty, old-fashioned title. This is by Cora Fillmore. She has some wonderful affirmations. So let me get us back on track here. From the spiritual mindset, the way we connect to spiritual judgment and wisdom is by spending time in the stillness, in the silence, quieting the mind, opening the heart. Here's an affirmation from Cora. The wisdom of God is expressed in all that I think, say, and do. So let's say you're looking at an important decision, you've done all the lists and whatever, and then you just need to go into the quiet space. You can make this affirmation. The wisdom of God is expressed in all that I think, say, and do. You can also ask yourself some reflective questions and then again spend time in the quiet. So what is alive for me in this situation? What is spirit showing me in this situation? And then as you spend time in the stillness, you allow space for answers to come forth in a variety of different ways. Whatever it is how things come forth for you. So here's another affirmation from Cora Fillmore. This one's a little bit longer, but it has some wonderful rhythm to it. So God is the name of the everywhere present wisdom in which I live, move, and have my being. So I'll read that again for those of you who like to jot things down. So God is the name of the everywhere present wisdom in which I live, move, and have my being. So those are a couple of suggestions of how we can be sure that we're tapping into our spiritual wisdom and not just stuck in evaluating things in outer terms. So how can we know that we're tapping into spiritual wisdom? Well, one thing that you can know is that if you are tied up in anxiety, worry, fear, running scenarios in your head, none of that is spiritual wisdom. All of that is your brain trying to figure out what's the best choice using all of these, human life kind of factors. When you have input from spirit, it is calm. It is simple. It's a little voice behind you saying, wear the yellow top. And you're like, where'd that thought come from? I didn't even think about wearing the yellow. What about the yellow? So it's simple, it's direct. You might sense it in any variety of ways. Here's a description from Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett in Divine Audacity about this. One of the most frequent questions asked about our wisdom ability is, how can I tell whether my intuition is from God or it's just my own human thought? Many answers have been given for this question. Mine is, if it leads to a behavior that helps me sleep better at night. If it rises in purity rather than in a confusion of my feelings, chances are it's a wise course of action. Is it God? Is it me? Yes, it is. It is oneness. So remember, my friends, when it comes to your power of judgment, your spiritual wisdom, that we practice this on a human level, and we do this in the best way that we can, knowing what we know right now, right? And we practice from a spiritual perspective. So, how we tap into that is through our spiritual practice, spending time in the silence, in the stillness, in that space that you might call the listening space, rather than the talking and claiming space that might be involved in prayer, where we're claiming things. It's kind of like make the affirmation, that's good, and then be still, be quiet, and allow the divine to come forth. So we're going to practice here in a moment with our meditation time. So I have one more quote for you before we go into our time of meditation. And it's a quote that Linda Martella Whitsett includes, but it's from scripture. It's from Isaiah 30:24, I think, or it might be 21. The script here is a bit odd. So, and when you turn to the right, or when you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." So that quiet, still, small voice. So let's move into our time of meditation together and practice this, right? And give ourselves a practice that we can use. Now, the last time we were together, we started by using a practice that is presented by Cora Fillmore and her book here on the 12 powers. So we're going to keep working on that and keep using that practice. So we're going to begin by focusing on the crown of the head. And if you like, you can kind of tap your head there or just touch your head so that you kind of bring a focus to the crown of the head. And sense their bright white light. Now we remember here that when it comes to spirit, the light of spirit, the white light that they talk about, those who have crossed through the veil, this is not just colorless light. This is a white light that is actually composed of every color of the rainbow, shining brightly all at the same time. And this white light, I've been across the veil in a near-death experience, so that's why I speak as if I've seen this, because I've been there, and this light is brighter than you can imagine, and yet doesn't cause you to have to squint your eyes. So I want you to sense that light and make this affirmation with me. Divine nature is awakening within me. You can touch the top of your head if you want. Say it again. Divine nature is awakening within me. Now shift your focus. Let that light drop down just a little bit to the forehead. And right here at the forehead, we're going to make another affirmation. I'll say it once and then you can say it with me. I am aware of divine nature awakening within me. Say it with me. I am aware of divine nature awakening within me. Shift this light, bring it with you to the center of your head. Center of your head is the foundation of the energy of faith. And here we're going to say another affirmation. I'll say it once and then you can say it with me. Divine nature through faith is awakening within me. Divine nature through faith is awakening within me. Now we're going to allow this light to gently drop down through the body, moving through the heart space, and allow that light to settle just under your ribs and above your navel. Place your hand right there. This location is often called the solar plexus, and this is the seat of your power of wisdom. The color of light here, of discernment and judgment, is yellow, a bright yellow that brings enlightenment into your body, into your mind, into your spirit. So just feel that yellow light flowing all through your body, all through all the thoughts and feelings and beliefs and attitudes held in consciousness. And let's say this affirmation. I'll say it once. You can repeat it with me. Divine nature, through wisdom, is awakening in me. Divine nature, through wisdom, is awakening within me. And now we're going to spend some time in the silence together. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the current moment, back to the body in the seat, the feet on the floor, the breath moving in and out of the body, we recognize this activity of spiritual wisdom and discernment active in each and every one of our opportunities as we go through the day. And we remember that we will use this wisdom wisely in our human lives, and we will regularly touch base with spirit so that we can make sure that spiritual wisdom is awake and alive. So we're going to close with an affirmation. This is another affirmation from Cora Fillmore. And I'm going to put my hand right on my heart space when we say this. So I'll say it once, and then you can repeat it with me a couple times. Divine wisdom is awakened in me, and my soul rejoices. Say it with me, friends. Divine wisdom is awakened in me, and my soul rejoices. Let's do it one more time, okay? Divine wisdom is awakened in me, and my soul rejoices. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm going to hand it back to our friend Linda.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation.